Rabbi Friedman, thank God it's Tuesday. Oh boy, oh boy. How have you been?
I've been hiding away in this idyllic little place, studying, discussing. It's been beautiful. So tell me what's going on in the world.
Sounds wonderful. So you're kind of not really with it lately, not following the news. Oh my goodness, I can only envy you at this point. Yeah, crazy, unfortunately, is just getting crazier. I mean, we have things like hybrid babies, where babies are being grown a mix of humans and monkeys. We have men nursing babies. We have little tattooed grandmothers running around. We have a new, very popular show which completely demoralizes Jewish lifestyle on Netflix. Everything that is happening is so supported by the media. But let me start from the beginning, if you don't mind. So in March, what was it, March 17th of this year, Israeli team of researchers announced that they have grown mouse embryos, and those embryos lived for 11 days, which is interesting. But then on April 15th, U.S. and Chinese team of researchers announced that they have successfully grown a human monkey embryos, which lived for 20 days. So let's start with this first one, this hybrid thing. But the interesting thing on top of that is that sometimes in April, I believe it was, June 4th, USA Today ran an advertising that kind of looked like a front page cover, and this was the cover story, hybrid babies. But really what they were advertising is the new Netflix, I don't know, we can't call it a reality because it's not really a reality yet. It's kind of made like a reality show, but it's a series on Netflix. There's already few episodes out there. It's called Sweet Tooth, and this is exactly what this series is about. It's about hybrid babies. There was a pandemic, and all of a sudden, tons of hybrid babies were born. A cross between a human and an owl, a human and a dog. I don't know. It's just really, really crazy. But why I'm kind of lumping it all together, it is the timing. The timing is always of an essence. And in this particular case, we have crazy in real life, and then we have media reflecting the crazy, and of course glamorizing it as always, because here we have to accept these babies, and the whole show is about people reacting to it. They have to accept them. They're sweet and cute, and those who are not accepting of this are really not nice people. So, of course, this brings us back to what we've been doing, a series of Morality 101 shows with thank God it's Tuesday, with your help. And, of course, I would like to bring some morality to this aspect of hybrid babies. Why are we doing this? What is the purpose? What should be the outcome? How can it be useful to humanity?
That should be the priority question. You can do all sorts of research, but why? Research also has to have a morality, no? You're spending money, resources, time on experimenting. But there are experiments that must be performed. They're urgently needed. like figuring out the genetic code so that we can heal people who are considered unhealable. That would be a priority. But experimenting with hybrids for what? If you're worried about all the people who died and you want to replace them, there is another way of doing it. And it doesn't involve owls. It's the good old-fashioned way. I ever tell you, I went to a lecture on campus. There was a Jewish professor of ancient Middle Eastern languages. That was his subject. But unofficially, he was the one that all these Jewish students went to for Jewish ideas. He was a historian or a sociologist. I forget what it was. Anyway, he was giving his major lecture. And the students that were studying Tanya and coming to the Chabad house, they asked me to come. So I went to hear the lecture. And his lecture, the main point of his lecture was that he had discovered an ancient civilization whose laws included the prohibition against eating pork. And this was before the Torah was given. So his point was that the laws of kosher were adopted from a pagan civilization, a pagan people. So one of the students very innocently asked, well, if that's the case, why are we still, now that we know that, why are we still keeping kosher? And the professor said, well, we shouldn't. So being the only guy in the room with a beard, I felt like I had to say something, right? In defense of kosher. So I said, the professor is saying that the Torah is not original. Some of the ideas in the Torah are not original. And his proof is that there were people who didn't eat pork before Jews, before the Torah. But the laws of kashrus are in the third book of Torah. I know from the first book of Torah that the Torah is not original. Matter of fact, from the first chapter of the first book of Torah, you can tell right away that the Torah is not original. Because the Torah says that God commanded Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply. And I know for a fact that people did that before the Torah was given. And now that we know that, we shouldn't do it anymore. It's a pagan ritual. There's an old-fashioned way of replacing people who pass away. You don't need hybrids, even if they do work, which is still, very questionable. So it's very sad, and it's almost laughable that people are actually putting their efforts into this. It's not the first time. If I'm not mistaken, after World War II, Russia had lost so many of its men that there were actually experiments going on trying to create hybrids, humans and apes.
I actually think they kind of succeeded.
Without any laboratories, huh? So, yeah, that's very sad. But again, it's just a sign of the emptiness, the lack of content, the lack of significance in people's thinking and in people's lifestyle. How does anybody justify this? So it's not like a philosophical question, should we not? It's absurd. Just another sign of the brainlessness, the immaturity of society. Any alternative, just not the original that is real and true and moral and kind and humane. No, anything but that. It's like the whole world is having a tantrum, like a frustrated child.
This kind of stuff really, unfortunately, is also very scary, because everything has a soul. What kind of a soul does something like this have? I mean, if we're so concerned about being kind and accepting, and then we want to, and then we're breeding things that are doomed to begin with, then where is the kindness? Where is the goodness? I'm sorry. And how does the Torah approach this topic of hybrids? Is this, as far as I know, it's a big no-no.
Yes, you're not allowed to crossbreed, even among animals themselves, much less a human with an animal. But if we were going to entertain this thought, just for entertainment purposes, if in fact they could create a creature that is half human and half owl, he'll probably be able to function only at night. What would the halachic status of such a creature be? Would it be considered human or animal? Would it be kosher or unkosher? It's a huge, huge question. Because if it's human, got a whole set of rules that apply to a human being. If it's an animal, it's a whole different set of rules. And what if the human that is being hybrided with an owl is also Jewish? Now we're going to have Jewish owls? Yeah, so it would be fun for a little science fiction. But I don't think we should give it any attention at all. Other than to say, that's really sad.
See, this is where Netflix comes in and makes it really, really difficult, because then he makes, well, I don't know if I should call Netflix it makes things very glamorous and interesting and creative, very creative. I mean, there's a few series and those babies are super cute. They're super cute, and any baby would call out, warm, fuzzy feelings, especially that, there's a lot of human in them. So, and all babies are cute, not only humans. So, I don't know. It's just why the scary question is, why is the media right away reacting to this and glamorizing it and making it cute and nice and trying to put has a kind twist to it, kind and interesting and pretty. It's just making it very attractive.
Anything to undermine the established order. The contradictions are also staggering. One day we complain that there are too many human beings, too many mouths to feed, we're overpopulated. Now we're going to find a way to create human beings like an assembly line by the millions through artificial means. Why would you do that? So are we overpopulated or underpopulated? We need artificial ways of producing more human or semi-human beings? For what? So the inconsistency and the contradictions and the mindlessness of it. Very sad.
Hopefully it's my personal only hope is that we're not going to get to it. I don't know, because we're kind of there. It's just not happening. But of course, everything that the science pushes can eventually materialize, and that's a pretty scary thought.
So the real scary thought is there any human being anywhere in the world, from any culture, from any religion, from any civilization, who can tell the scientific world, stop wasting your time with that? It's wrong. Can anybody say that with authority? No. We have no moral leadership. None. That is scary.
Except you, Rabbi Friedman. Yeah, we're counting only on you these days. It is scary. It's scary because that is the question. How far can it get, and who's going to put a stop to all of this? Because another crazy media savvy thing that is happening over there is a series called 9 Months. Now, this is an actual reality show that is that has a very famous host, Courtney Cox, and it's about extraordinary pregnancies. And it's on Netflix, and Netflix seems to pick up probably everything these days. So basically, this is about extraordinary couples that are having babies. And it was in the media a couple of weeks ago, all over the place. And on Ben Shapiro's show, it was, he was obviously very vocal about it. But I want to, look at it from a moral standpoint, which is what we are doing during our program. So a female and a male couple who are transgender, married. So he who was previously a she had the baby. Now, she who was previously a he is trying to nurse the baby. Really, really gross scenario to begin with, because it's one of those extremely abnormal things. But again, what the show is all about is that really, if the world is not tolerant, we're hurtful and mean, and, they're suffering because they're not being called the right things or understood the pain that they're going through. Like, the milk is not coming in realistically. This was one of the issues of the show, and, other things. Of course, the milk is not going to come in. It's not normal. It's not natural. He used to be a guy, and he's trying to nurse a baby, and that whole concept. And what about the baby? What about the baby? That's not abuse. That seems to be okay.
The concern for the baby is the last concern. The least of people's consideration. The excitement of the possibilities of a brave new world. Nothing like the world we grew up in. that attraction is toxic. It's like when you want to make a change in your life, it can be because you found something better or because you can't tolerate the life you have. You want to move out of town because you have a problem. Moving out of town will solve the problem, or will you be taking your problem with you? If you're taking your problem with you, then what's the point? But how do you know whether it's a healthy change, a healthy move, or an unhealthy one? If you're leaving because you can't stand this place, it's probably not going to be a productive change. But if you're moving because you found something better, then the move is more justified and probably will bring better results. So why do we want to create test tube babies, hybrid babies? Why? That'll be better? A hybrid human with an owl will be more compassionate or more animalistic? There's no reason to believe that it's going to be better. And even if in some biological consideration, the hybrid would do better against disease or against death, in other words, it will be better equipped to survive, I'm not sure it's worth it. So unless you're convinced that this hybrid person is going to be a better person, there's no justification whatsoever. If you think men nursing babies will do a better job than women, then fine, do the experiments. Try really hard. Well, why would you think that men would be better at nursing? That would produce healthier children? So there's very little wisdom to this. And of course it'll become popular because it's sensational. Sensational means something out of the ordinary. So when ordinary life doesn't appeal to you, and you really don't see why you need to continue it, then you start looking for an alternative. The alternative, like in every revolution, is probably worse than what you're giving up. Not only not better, but worse.
So, Rabbi Friedman, we're going through a revolution away from normal? Is that what we're revolting against?
Yes. See, it's very clear in the elections, in the politics. Nobody voted for Biden. They voted against Trump. So the thinking was anything but Trump. That's not thinking. That's thoughtless. Now people are going to start saying anything but Biden. And what are we going to end up with? So unless you see a really promising candidate that you can look up to, that you can respect.
I'm sorry, I think the hybrid is going to step in at this point if it's anything but Biden. I think
hybrid for president.
Yeah, I think this is probably the reason.
Yes, it could be some of the rationalization. We need to create a superhuman. And I agree. We do need to create a superhuman. But making him half animal doesn't make him superhuman. It makes him half human. It's good old-fashioned Meshuggah.
Yeah, it really is. But it's just getting weirder and weirder. And, I did mention tattooed grandmas. I mean, realistically, tattoos used to be a marking of a tough, big biker guy who did have an alternative lifestyle, chose it, and didn't hurt anybody with it, and it was okay. It wasn't hurting anybody. But all of a sudden, tattoo became the biggest fad of them all, and now you have 80-year-old grandmothers with tattoos on the streets, and the question is, why? What is the purpose for that? What are we trying to prove by marking our bodies as a society?
Sometimes you dress a certain way to let people know your status. You wear a crown to let people know you're the king. You wear a uniform to let people know you're in the army. You wear a costume to let people know you're on stage and you're acting. Or you wear a business suit because you mean business. Or you wear a bathing suit because you're going bathing. So your clothing tell people who you are, what you're doing, and what you're all about. What are you telling the world when you dress down? You can be telling the world that you're not impressed. You're not impressed with fashion. You're not impressed with affluence. You're not impressed with the abundance of clothing and the variety of clothing and the variety of colors and sizes and shapes. And you're saying, I can't be bothered with all that. I have something more meaningful to put my energies into. So you dress down to let people know that they shouldn't talk to you about the stock market or about real estate or about fashion, because that's not your thing. However, it can also be that you dress down simply to let the world know that you don't care about anything. You're giving up on life. It's all meaningless, so who cares? That comes not from a philosophy of life. It comes from empty-headedness. You don't understand, you don't know, you don't appreciate. So what's left? What's left is nihilism, but not as a philosophy, as a reality. That is very, very sad and dangerous. So I guess the first thing is, if you want to shape up the society, men should start wearing their pants around their waist again. Like, what is the point of wearing pants if you're not really wearing them? There's a terrible chutzpah, a terrible disregard and lack of appreciation. It took many, many years of human ingenuity to produce a good pair of pants. And to convince people that they should wear pants. And now to simply, I don't know, use too strong a language, but to desecrate the pants, abuse the pants, just to show disdain, just to show that you don't care. It is so jaded.
That is the big question. Do we care or don't we care? Because this is very, very confusing. Actually, we dress like we don't care, but we act like we really, really, really care. So which one is it? Actually, I just have to share this one. It just went in the news today. Okay, so yesterday, Ben and Jerry ice cream makers, who are both Jewish, denounced Israel and supported BDS. So today, Mayor de Blasio, who has been so anti-Semitic during the entire COVID, is announced that he's not going to eat Ben and Jerry from now on because he's denouncing them. So I'm sorry. I'm not sure I follow anything anymore. What is whose position? Who stands for what these days is my biggest question.
Yeah, and we talked about this a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
Good is going to come from unexpected places, and evil is going to come from unexpected places. So who are the anti-Semites today? Jews. And who are defending Israel and Jews? Anti-Semites. Hey, welcome to a whole new world.
Yeah. Really, really hard to be functional in this world. Very hard to think straight in this world, honestly, because realistically have no clue anymore what's right, what's wrong, what's gonna, if before you knew if you do this, you're kind of gonna have this outcome. Now we don't really know that anymore. The outcomes are absolutely coming. Rabbi Friedman, you did say that. And you actually, you know what, I wanted to have a soundbite for today's show, and I just ran a little bit out of time. But right before the Jewish New Year last year, you said we're going to grow limbs. You did say that. That's exactly what you said. And of course, this story about hybrids, I'm sure, should lead to that, because growing hybrids doesn't make sense, but growing an organ absolutely does. And that is already in the news too. In fact, it was in the news today. But
a human organ.
Yeah.
Not bat wings.
Okay, Rabbi Friedman, one more about what is happening in the world and how the media is glorifying it. So another Netflix project is called My Unorthodox Life. And this is about a lady, Orthodox lady, who at 49 years of age is now the star of this reality show. She she was very demonstrative of how she left her family, her community, and how she became the CEO of a great organization, married a very rich gentleman of Italian descent. She has 4 children, and she's trying very, very hard for everybody to move as far away from the previous Orthodox lifestyle that they used to live and live the glamorous, secular, rich lifestyle. And so this is a new Netflix show, which took actually all the other ones that were sort of minor, were offensive, but were minorly offensive, to a point. And now we have one that is really very, very offensive because it's in your face saying that the Orthodox lifestyle sucks. It's constraining, it's terrible, it's awful. And if you leave it, this is where you end up. You end up in the penthouse in Manhattan and living it up in the Hamptons and all that good stuff. So that's not the life. This is the life. How do we treat this one?
Well, that's what I was referring to, actually. I said, running away from your problem or running towards something positive. That whole attitude is, get away, get away. To what? To something much better. She can't get away. She's telling everybody else to get away. She married out. She chose her lifestyle. She gave up everything. She got away? She didn't get away. All she thinks about all day long is Orthodox Judaism. She's obsessed with it. Right? But I saw a clip, very short, where a mother is telling her teenage son to drop out of yeshiva and give it up. Give up the observance. And the boy, a very healthy-looking, happy kid, says, I like it. No, you don't. You don't realize. And she starts to cry. You must leave it. I've never seen a more blatant form of manipulation. If any mother who does that is absolutely, obviously not interested in what's best for the boy. The boy is content, he's happy. How many such teenagers do you find in this world today? So she's telling him, no, you're not really happy. That's nice. There are a lot of teenagers who tell you they're not happy, but they're okay because they're not practicing Judaism. But this kid who's practicing Judaism, who says he is okay, can't be. But the whole manner, the whole conversation was so controlling. If that, like in real life, if your mother did that to you, I don't want you to be like that. And I will manipulate you and put a guilt trip on you and cry. You're breaking my heart by doing. Oh, that is so vicious. So unhealthy.
Interesting that you're saying this, because the whole premise of the show is about freedom. This is what it's based on. It's freedom from constraint. And it's pretty much repeated.
And mind control, right? And manipulation.
Yeah.
And threat. And she did it all in that tiny clip. Intolerance, manipulation, mind control. Like one girl came to this program that we have, and she said, my teacher in school was not happy to hear that I was going to spend my summer studying Judaism or Orthodox Judaism, whatever. And she said, my teacher's last words when I told her that I was going, she said, okay, but keep an open mind. Don't believe what they tell you. How's that for a sentence?
Yeah.
Keep an open mind. Don't believe what they tell you. In other words, don't have an open mind. Don't try anything new. Stay where you are. This is called progressive. Yeah, it's very sad. But I think it's going to backfire. The show is going to make Orthodox Judaism more popular.
I hope everything is going to backfire that is happening right now. That is insane beyond insane.
It has to.
The question is when, Rabbi Friedman, when are we going to, when is this sitcom, this comedy going to end? When?
That's a very good word. That's a very good word. It's like, how are we going to get anything done if we can't stop laughing? But we certainly shouldn't be intimidated or defensive. Oh, no. We don't need that. Funny. It's a comedy. It
has to be, otherwise it's a horror show. It really is. And I have to say that some days it is a comedy, but on other days it's a horror show. and it's very, very hard to center yourself properly to keep going. And
yeah, the ideas, the whole concept is a wonderful theme for a good comedy. But those people who take it seriously and who are going to destroy themselves over it, that's tragic. So I think we have to laugh enough so that everybody laughs.
In Russian, I say this Murozilka, which is, which is a magazine, a cartoony magazine, that this Murozilka has to end sometimes. And, just every day praying for the end of this ridiculous, just insanity, this craziness that unfortunately is getting crazier. But I guess we have to get to a certain point for it to collapse. I don't know. Any insights on that?
Well, the more ridiculous it becomes, the quicker it'll evaporate.
Just humans are so creative, Can it really keep unfolding? Because we're still coming up with new stuff.
Yeah. So I would not say it can't get any crazier, because that would be crazy to say that. Of course it can get crazier, but is there no limit to human irresponsibility? Isn't there some place in the human soul that says, okay, enough of this? It's irresponsible before it explodes. Or maybe we have no such governor within us, and we're going to have to wait till it explodes, which it certainly will. Or evaporate, I don't know which is a better metaphor. But it certainly will destroy itself. It'll run out of steam. And it'll be embarrassing.
Rabbi Friedman.
Much more embarrassing than having believed that the earth was flat.
It's a question of when, and really it's already just so passionately wanted to be now, and praying for all of this to end now.
But be encouraged by the fact that the craziness changes so rapidly, progresses so rapidly. The cure can also come so rapidly. Day by day, the world will get better. So, when is not such a scary thought, because it's going to happen soon, and when it happens, the cure will come just as fast, if not faster.
God willing. Thank you so much, Rabbi Friedman. Thank you for all the words of encouragement. I mean, this is food that we live by these days, just your confidence, your positivity, and the light that you bring to the world in these pretty dark days, I would say, even though, trying not to make them look too dark, but they're pretty dark. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your wisdom, weekly wisdom on our radio, and for your daily wisdom everywhere else. Thank you. Looking forward to our Thank God It's Tuesday next week at our regular time.